Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Today's video is going to be quite a bit different than my usual content, that being because I want to discuss and spread awareness about a pretty serious topic and reality that I have been dealing with for well over a year by now, and that is stolen content. Now, before I say anything more, this video will involve me discussing other creators on the YouTube platform and bringing to light some actions that I personally take issue with. Let me be very clear when I say that this is not something I intend to do ever again, if I can help it. My channel is here to create community around a shared enjoyment of the Division games, and that is what I'm going to keep on doing. In light of that, monetization has been disabled on this video. I'm not trying to profit or benefit in any way from this. My main objective is to spread awareness to those of you who consume Division content on YouTube, as well as any other Division creators who may not be aware that this is happening. So, what do I mean when I say stolen content? I am someone of the firm belief that if something is in a video game, then no one can claim ownership over covering content that is within that game. So no, what I'm talking about is not I made a guide about X and then this other person did it too. It is not me saying, hey, I made a True Patriot build 2 years ago and then this person went and made one too. So long as people are bringing originality to their content, a topic within a game can be covered an infinite number of times and it will still hold value and individual perspective. The type of theft I'm talking about is the stuff that creators like myself have to actually create. Video scripts, word choice, editing sequencing. I know that might sound trivial when you first hear it, but I promise if you give me a few minutes to explain, this goes a lot deeper than you might think, and I've got the evidence to show for it. It's also important to note that I am not the only creator who has encountered this. I know many within the Division community itself that I've either spoken to privately or who have mentioned it publicly before. I'm not going to bring any of them up by name as I feel that that is their right if they want to join the discussion on this, but specifically for any smaller creators out there who were unaware of this before now, always feel free to reach out if you have questions or want advice. My DMs are open, and I'd be more than happy to chat. Now, I know I've said the word creator about a million times now. As mentioned earlier, though, this is not only important for creators, but for all of you who watch Division and YouTube content regularly. I think that when you watch a video, you deserve to know that the words, images, and editing within that video belong to the person whose channel you're watching, and that it hasn't been ripped and reformatted to pass off as their own. And that is the final point that I want to drive home before we fully get into this. I am beyond fortunate to have built up such an amazing and wide-ranging community around this game, and because of that, again, I'm very privileged that the things I'm going to show you in this video, despite their severity, they aren't impacting my survival or my ability to continue making content. That said, the same might not be able to be said for other smaller creators who this may very well be happening to. So please know that this video is not for the purposes of creating drama, it's not to try and punch down, it's to do my very best to use this platform to educate and make people aware about the importance of content originality. Alright, let's discuss. So, as stated, this is an issue that I've been dealing with for well over a year now. In that time, I have been DM'd links from you all in the community to many of these videos, or other ones have just popped up on my YouTube homepage or recommended feed. Not once have I gone out trying to search for these types of videos that I'm going to present here, and I think it says something that despite that, I still have dozens of examples here and pieces of evidence collected. That's the first point I want to make, is that given my exposure to this has only come from stuff that has just gravitated my way, I'm sure that there are countless more videos out there using my words and my content for their own gain, and that's part of why I think it's so important to make you all, the viewers, aware of this. So, in that year span, anytime I have come across one of these videos, I go and collect what evidence I need before I then send out an email much like this. Now, I've redacted out any identifying information here, but it's pretty simple. I say, hey, this is identifiable evidence of theft without permission, and in every email, all I ask is for them to remove the content in question and not use my work without permission again in the future. And to these people's credit, every time that I have asked, they comply, and they remove the content in question. There's never really much of an apology or an explanation, but they do comply. So, even though I will be showing you clips of some of those videos later on, I'm not going to show the channel's names or put them on blast in any way, because, at least to the best of my knowledge, after they were caught and confronted, they have not gone back and used my work again. Unfortunately, I can't know or verify if they may have then pivoted to lifting work from other people's channels, but But yeah, that's kind of the whole issue here, right? But let's show some examples, shall we? I've been talking and talking, but what do I mean when I say that these channels are stealing creator property, if you will? Well, it can happen in various forms and degrees. As you saw in that email, that specific video used significant chunks of my video's title, its description, links, the timestamps, not even to mention all of the content within the video itself. But for reference, here is my original video's layout. You can see the title there, see the links and headings I used, and then the names and orderings of the timestamps in the description. Just take it all in. Of course, you can scroll back afterwards if needed. Here is then the other channel's video. Again, I've redacted their channel name, and this video has long since been removed, so I don't think you'll find anything by searching that title up. But if you compare the two, you can see this was posted just 2 days after mine. And when you start to look at the details, the video title is verbatim, aside from some capitalization use and words added on at the end. The description is copy-pasted. Even the linked video is headed with the same words. And then the timestamps, while slightly altered in naming, are one for one, the same topics, and ordering. This is one of the more blatant and egregious examples I have in my bank of evidence. And in this case, this theft is powered by AI. I'll play a clip from the video in a moment where you'll hear that this is clearly an AI voice. But that's a big part of the issue here. While a lot of theft like this is intentional and done by a human, much of it is just plugged in and churned out by AI. Oftentimes, I don't even know if the person doing it is aware of how much they're actually stealing. And unfortunately, that is likely only going to get worse as that technology continues to grow. But here is just a quick example of the stolen work in the video. I'll play the clip from my original video first, and then the other one afterwards. Also, just so as to avoid confusion, any clips that I use from like prior videos and evidence from here on out, I will desaturate so that it's clear what's in the past and what's me talking now. Anyway, here you go. And that is our final story. The Year 6 Season 3.1 is arriving 1 week from when I'm posting this video, and we know that there were a few fixes that are going to be included in this patch beyond the aforementioned fix for Scout 3. That includes the fact that both the Countdown and Conflict game modes are not rewarding Season Pass XP for completion, despite them originally being advertised to do so in the patch notes for the season. And additionally, the issue where the Frenzy Hostile modifier is applying to certain enemies and making them basically unkillable, stuff like Black Tusk Marauder drones and more. That is an issue that the devs are aware of and is going to be addressed in this 0.1 patch. The full list of what they revealed is coming in Year 6 Season 3.1 is available on the Known Issues board. I have a link down in the description to the Division's link tree where they have all of the relevant links that you need for official info on the game. I highly recommend you check that out and bookmark it if need be.
And that is our final story of the Year 6 season. 3.1 is arriving in about 5 days from when I'm posting this video, and we know that there are a few fixes that are going to be included in this patch beyond the already mentioned fix for Scout 3. That includes the fact that both the Countdown and Conflict to game modes are not rewarding Season Pass XP for completion, despite them originally being advertised. The issue with some Black Tusk enemies being unkillable is a focus for the devs, and they're aware of it. I'll link the full Division devs support link down below. Make sure to check that out. It's highly recommended.
So yeah, as you can see, once you know what you're looking for, it's actually pretty wild how blatant it gets. And again, just to underscore, this is not an argument of, well, this person covered the same game topic as me. My original video is discussing news and patch notes. Any creator can and absolutely should cover that if they want to. I have no claim or ownership to any individual topic, but hopefully you can begin to see that there's a stark difference between overlapping topics compared to someone just taking the work that I or someone else has already done, tweaking one or two things, and then putting it out there as their own. Anybody making YouTube content has their own voice, their own style, and it becomes pretty plainly obvious when you go around trying to use someone else's instead. So, this brings us to the reason that I finally decided to pull the trigger on making a video like this, again despite it being a recurring problem for over a year now. One of these stolen content incidents, if you will, occurred just this week, although this one was a bit different than what I'm used to seeing. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to send a takedown request email. Let's use this as the prime example of the video. So here you go. Alright, so we're here on the channel of Hannibal5150. Now I first became aware of this page and creator because of this video right here that showed up on my homepage the other day. It's titled The Division 2, No You Don't Need Our Help. And I did a double take when I first saw this because I thought that was my own video. If you go back to my channel a few days ago, I posted this video titled The Division 2, We Need Your Help. Just because of the timing right now, it both says that these were posted 3 days ago, but this one came out, I want to say, maybe 18 hours after mine. So when I realized that it was someone else's video, I thought, oh, surely this is going to be a response video to what I was talking about, right? It is. but it isn't. In the video, he does not reference me once. He just says YouTube has been discussing PvP lately. And by the way, for future reference, anybody on the internet is free to call me out. Let's debate. I made my channel for the purposes of discussion. So if you watch one of my things and you want to, provide counterpoints or talk about it, let's do it. But I found it odd, right, that you would make a video that is like clearly labeled as a response and then not bring me up at all. But I watched this video just to get a sense of what he was saying, and then I went to his channel. I thought, what kind of other stuff does he got on here? And that's what drew my eye to this video right here, titled "The Division 2 Crossroads Finale Was Kinda Meh." And just from seeing that, I thought, oh, sounds like he had a pretty similar reaction to the Year 7 Season 1 finale as I did. Let me check it out and see what his takes were. Well, it turns out that his takes were a bit too similar, if you catch my drift. So what I'm going to do now is show you several clips from my video right here, titled "The Division 2 It Ended Like That," which I posted back on August 13th, followed by clips from his video, which was posted on August 26th, so 13 days later. Do note that the following footage here is going to be several minutes long in duration. In case you want to skip ahead of that, just to when I continue the discussion, then you can go to this timestamp on screen. That said, I highly encourage that you listen to this, even if it's at 1.5 or 2x speed. This gets pretty wild. Alright, now before discussing anything else, I wanted to address the major bug and progression blocker the players have unfortunately been encountering in this mission, and it involves being unable to kill the final boss. This is due to her disappearing in the smoke cloud that she does for the phases and then not reappearing later on. I think there's also certain issues where she becomes unkillable, stuff like that.
We can't talk about this mission without first addressing the major issues players ran into. The progression blocking bug with the final boss. Now, for some players, the boss would disappear into her smoke phase and never reappear. For others, she became outright unkillable.
Now, to be fair, the season had a hot start. There was a really great hook with Barden finally being awake after all these years. It was poised that he could finally give us all of this new revelatory info. And that was fun for the first few scouts, right, to see what he had to say. But as we went on, the scout objectives continued to mostly be uninteresting, in my opinion. Also, the little pre and post Anna lines that they started to do in the recent seasons were missing this time around. I felt that really added to the immersion previously, so it was a real shame not to see them here.
Year 7 Season 1 started strong with Barton finally waking up, a huge hook after years of silence, months within the game. And that got people excited. But as the weeks went on, the scouts felt kind of repetitive. The objectives weren't particularly engaging, and even the little flavor dialogue from Anna, which had added immersion in past seasons, was missing.
I did want to take a moment to point out two very big highlights from the climax mission for me, because I still want to give props where they're due. For one, the visuals within this mission were very refreshing, in my opinion. I really liked all of the Black Tusk infrastructure that they had placed in. That entire arena where you fight the first Warhound boss, that room was completely redone compared to the normal version of the mission. There was also some great set pieces, like when we see the helicopter get shot out of the sky. So, when they're going to go and reuse old content, I really appreciate any efforts made to make it feel more refreshed and as new as it can be, and that was certainly my takeaway from here, so well done.
And it wasn't all bad, though. Credit where credit is due. The mission had some strong design elements. The Black Tusk infrastructure looked great. The arena where you fight the first Warhound boss was completely redone compared to the base mission. It felt fresh even though it was recycled content. I was a bit disappointed the Warhound didn't growl or bark like Violet did at the refinery. Now, the set piece with the helicopter getting shot down, that's the kind of spectacle I want to see more of, even though that's not how SAMs work in real life.
Also, gameplay-wise, it was really cool to see a, new, quote-unquote, skill with the decoy trap hybrid that the boss used. It reminded me a lot of Keener's laser traps that they had in the Year 6 Season 1 climax mission at the Federal Bunker. And so again, I just appreciate the effort made to spice things up as much as possible. And these things did prove to be a challenge on higher difficulties. It was cool that there was 3 to 4 different variations of the traps between the explosive ones, the shock, the riot foam.
The new decoy trap hybrid the boss used was a clever touch. At least I thought it was. It reminded me of the laser traps from Year 6 Federal Bunker climax. Mixing in explosives, shocks, and riot foam traps added variety and a real challenge on higher difficulties.
Now, I know that initial feedback from that mission caused them to rein in part of that because so many matchmade groups struggled with that mission specifically, but I feel like the pendulum has almost swung too far in the other direction, where now all we have really in Master is heroic difficulty with some extra elites and like one extra turret or objective at whatever part of the mission you're at.
Since then, though, it feels like the devs have been walking it back a little, and maybe a little too much. Season after season, Master is starting to feel like heroic with extra elites and maybe one extra turret.
As mentioned before, this season's comms with Barton certainly had some gems in there. There was some great information about stuff like the Black Tusk bunkers, about stuff like Diamond.
The comms with Barton had some great nuggets early on. Intel about the Black Tusk bunkers, hints about Diamond.
Really, the only morsel of information that we get is from the final line that Manny gives you when you finish the mission. Now, I've seen some people saying that this is just in reference to the Black Tusk supplying the hyenas. That was something that was revealed back during the original Division 2 campaign. I'm not so convinced, right? We and Manny already know that. And he said specifically that this was gleaned from the new intel that we recovered. I imagine this is going to be a plotline that they will pick up next season, since extracting the manager apparently cripples the Black Tusk supply lines.
The only semi-meaningful line came from Manny, noting that the intel recovered shows Black Tusk supplying more than just themselves. Now, some argue that this is just a callback to the hyenas connection from the base game. Maybe. But with the announcement of the pact, it sort of made a little bit more sense. Manny did say specifically this was new intel, not old news, which leans into my guess that this thread will carry into the next season, setting up supply disruptions and the suggested larger confrontation that we're going to be having.
But really, I think the devs struck a pretty decent story momentum in the periods between Season 9 and Year 5 Season 3. Regularly enough, there were big events happening, revelations, these different skirmishes. But really, since then, it's felt a bit like we're just padding time and seasons to fit the live service model.
Between Season 9 and Year 5 Season 3, Division 2 had momentum. Big reveals, strong arcs, a sense of urgency. But lately, it feels like we're padding time, filling seasons to keep the service model running rather than pushing the narrative forward.
So, yeah, that morning was quite the whirlwind for me, stumbling across what I had hoped to be an honest video and channel offering counterpoints to my own video, pushing the discussion forward, only to then find out that it joins the ranks of so many others that unfortunately decide to steal the work of other channels. And if there was any doubt left in your mind after those clips that maybe this one was somehow all one big coincidence, well, he actually did us all a favor by confirming in this same video that he did, in fact, watch my video on the finale. So here's one final clip for comparison. But, looking back to Year 6 Season 2, again, I was really excited to make a Master Difficulty Guide video back then, and it was very needed because there were so many, intricacies and new things introduced in the Master version, and I still ended up doing one last season even though there was a lack of overall new mechanics. But this time around, I'm not even going to bother making one. I mean, why would I? All you really need to know is bring some protection from elites, expect some longer firefights, bingo.
One content creator even went so far as to say that they didn't even feel motivated to make a guide video this time around. Really? You were that disappointed that you couldn't bother to make a guide for the casual players who struggled with previous Master missions? Man, find some wood and use it to build a bridge, my guy.
How about you find your own talking points? And then, when you have some original content to stand on, I would be more than happy to have an honest chat if you think that I could be doing more to better service the community with my content. Yeah, I just found that to be so incredibly ironic and hypocritical, given on that aforementioned PvP response video, he insinuates, even though he doesn't name me, that I'm too polite and not critical enough, only then to turn around and use my own words on a video where I was providing criticism for a season finale that I felt was underwhelming. Alright, so at this point, hopefully you are beginning to get an idea of what the issues are here and what's at stake by allowing this to grow and become more commonplace. Honestly, beyond just the fact that theft is morally wrong, this kind of behavior also just limits critical thinking and healthy debate. I mean, I'm flattered that there's so many out there who think that my content is good enough to try and repurpose and use, but guess what? I'm not the only opinion out there. There is no right answer when it comes to content creation like this. And so by just parroting me, you're limiting what commentary is out there for people to consume. I think this platform is at its best when there are an array of viewpoints and opinions to listen to, rather than a pigeonholed selection of the same few talking points. Everyone's voice is valid and their perspective is valuable, and I would encourage anyone who has or considers ripping other people's work to think about the fact that people want to hear what you have to say, not just what's already been said. So, before we close this out, I wanted to just fire off a few more theft comparison clips purely so that you all watching can have the most amount of context and information for seeing how this can take shape, how you can hopefully recognize it. Again, if you just want to skip to my final points, you can go to this timestamp, but here is some more stolen video evidence before that. So, the time has finally come. You're considering getting back into the Division 2, or maybe you've even just picked it up for the very first time. But as always, there's that lingering dread. You're thinking, this game is over 6 years old, there's been dozens upon dozens of updates, reworks, changes. How am I ever going to catch up? Well, you've come to the right place.
So you've decided to jump into the Division 2, and whether you're a returning player or stepping into the chaos for the first time, I know what you may be thinking. Like, this game is already 6 years old with a crap ton of updates, reworks, and more content than your average Netflix and Hulu backlog. Like, how in the world am I supposed to catch up? Well, don't worry because I've got you covered.
We do know what the final boss will look like as they showed him off on the latest dev stream. He's definitely giving big District Union legendary final boss vibes here. I am curious to know if the hyena branded paint on his armor is significant or if that's just for visual design. Having a legendary level of challenge for more factions than just the White Tusk would definitely be fun.
We already know what the final boss looks like from the last dev stream. Big District Union legendary vibes. And check this out. His armor has hyena branded paint on it. That could just be a design choice, or maybe it's teasing something bigger. Could Master Difficulty start incorporating different factions beyond just Black Tusk? Maybe even some new hunters? That would be insane.
Now, heading into the season, there was a small concern that I had in the back of my head that despite Schaefer waking up after all this time, they would find some narrative loophole for why he couldn't tell us all of the info right away. We need to go and prove ourselves or whatever. But so far, it seems as though each new week here, the scouts are going to give us full-on Schaefer briefings, talking about some key Black Tusk info. And so yeah, we've got 2 of the comms already. Here's a look at the first one of the season.
Are you sure you're up to this?
Let's talk Schaefer. I had some doubts. I was worried they'd wake him up and still find a reason to withhold all the juicy intel. Make us earn it again. But no. We're getting real information fast. Every week, new comms, full debriefs. Here's a bit from the first one.
You sure you're up to this? We've already wasted 2 months. If it's too much...
Alright, well, you've seen it all. And again, I stress that while these are the examples I have been able to catch, mostly by pure luck and coincidence, I'm sure that there are tons more out there, both mimicking my own content and other creators that you likely follow and know well. So what can be done about this? Really, I just wanted to end this off with a bit of a call to action. If you're someone who regularly watches Division content here on YouTube, stay mindful that this is a reality the community is facing. Be particularly wary of AI-voiced channels you may come across. That's not to say they're all automatically guilty. I have seen more than one that do genuinely cool, original content. However, there are channels that cover Division content who use an AI voice, and many of the viewers of their content aren't even aware that it's AI. I'm not kidding. And as I mentioned earlier, that's likely only going to become more prevalent and harder to discern as time goes on. Also, keep your ears perked. If you're listening to a video and something about their words and flow just sounds off, it's very possible that you're hearing someone flip between another person's word and script that they've taken, while then trying to interject with a few of their own comments in between. A good example is within Hannibal's video that we looked at. He states that he experienced the final boss bug with the Year 7 Season 1 climax mission, but then suddenly cuts back to my script where I said I hadn't experienced it.
I did, however, run into the bug when I was playing with groups. My experience was it happened mostly on Mastery, but it did creep up on the standard run every once in a while. But just because I didn't see it doesn't mean it isn't there, and it's clearly affected a lot of players.
So, my final advice, if you see something, say something. If you're watching a video where you can clearly identify work that was originally done by another channel that you watch, send that original creator a DM, comment, or email. Pass the link along to the video in question. And really, just call these people out. I really don't believe that they're all doing this to be malicious. I just think that they don't realize that this isn't okay. There's a big difference between being inspired by another creator's work and their style, compared to literally taking that work trademark, style, and sometimes even footage and assets, and passing it off as your own. So let's do our best to remind those individuals what the importance of that distinction is. That's all I've got, folks. I thank you for your time listening to my explanation of this issue, and hopefully, together, we can curb some of this from becoming so widespread moving forward. I'll catch you all later. Until then, RogueGold out.